This is a good time to say it clearly. Both old hag and the kid are a nuisance. Get out.
Even though my husband was drunk, those were terrible words. My granddaughter Molly ran away crying. Molly! It was understandable because the picture she had drawn so hard for her grandfather was thrown away right in front of her. We might never be able to go back to how we were before. Just when I thought that, the doorbell rang. Who could it be at this hour? No way.
Holly, it's been a while.
Amy, why are you here? I stood there, dumbfounded. Then my husband spoke up again.
I'm fed up with old people like you.
What do you mean? You two aren't. My sister Amy looked down at me with a spiteful smile.
Holly, I'm dating Dave.
What?
That's right. I'm divorcing you and marrying Amy.
I couldn't comprehend the sudden declaration, and cold sweat started to pour from my body. Before I knew it, my hands and feet were trembling.
I'm sorry, but I'm taking your husband.
Amy watched me shake with shock for a while, looking amused. I cannot let things stay like this. I will get back at my husband and my sister. This is where my granddaughters and my revenge begins. My name is Holly Miller, and I'm 60 years old. I live quietly with my recently retired husband. Our home is in a quiet residential area a bit away from downtown New York, and I run a flower arrangement class there, making use of my qualifications. Although many couples face worsening relationships after retirement, we don't seem to have any particular issues. It's somewhat bothersome that my husband, Dave, unlike during his working years, wants my attention all the time now. At first, I was puzzled, but I thought it might be a refreshing change. Dave was leisurely enjoying his hobby, golf, and I was genuinely enjoying the interactions with friends I met through my classes. Living this second phase of life at our own pace wasn't bad at all. Just when I started to think that way, an incident occurred that changed our lives completely. What? Sam was in an accident? No way. Could this be some kind of mistake? My hand holding the receiver trembled, and my mind went blank. I couldn't believe it. Dave also seemed unable to comprehend the situation immediately, and stood there dumbfounded. 3 days ago, our son's family had gone on a trip with their child for the Thanksgiving holidays. The accident happened on their way back from visiting a mountain area in the north famous for its autumn leaves. It was hard to believe at first. God, please, let them be safe. With a prayerful heart, I hurried from our home to the hospital in the northeastern region. But what awaited us there were the lifeless bodies of our son and his wife, already cold.
This can't be true.
No, Sam, wake up. The cause of the accident seemed to be a large truck that dozed off and veered into the opposite lane. The car that collided head-on was so badly damaged that the front was unrecognizable. Our son Sam and his wife Emily had both died almost instantly. Sam, who worked tirelessly as a salesman. His wife couldn't be saved despite the doctor's best efforts. The soundless cries and sobs echoed in the cold hospital corridor. Even my usually strong husband was crying out loud this time. Our only son, Sam, was just 39 years old at the time. The only survivor was our granddaughter, Molly. God has taken away our only son from us. Left alone, our granddaughter, Molly, stood frozen with a pale face. not saying a word. Through the window, shaking in the cold autumn wind, I could see heavy rain clouds approaching. Before I knew it, the new year had come, and it was already February. A few months had passed since that fateful day when everything changed. In those 3 months, we barely had time to mourn, somehow managed to complete the funeral for our son's family, and moved forward in a daze. We decided to take in and raise our now orphaned granddaughter, Molly. We were so busy trying to get our new life on track. Although 3 months had passed, our time had stopped on that day. While I was busy with housework and struggling with raising a child again after so long, Dave gazed vacantly out the window. At that time, I hadn't yet realized that Dave had changed because of that accident. That day, when Molly didn't come back for a long time, I peeked outside from the back door, and the air was so cold it felt like it could freeze my lungs. Did she have track and field practice today? As I watched my breath turn white, just as I was about to close the door, Molly came home.
I'm home.
Welcome back. It must have been cold out there, right? Come on in. Molly had closed herself off after her parents' death and hardly talked to us. But recently, she started showing expressions more typical of a middle schooler. It will probably still take time for her to regain her true smile. She was trying to be considerate in her own way. Awkwardly, but earnestly, Molly was trying to fit into the new family dynamic. Molly was still 14 years old. She was in the 8th grade. Losing both her parents at such a sensitive age and being taken in by her grandparents, she had to transfer schools. Thinking about Molly's feelings broke my heart. But while I was trying hard to save Molly's heart, Dave's heart remained hollow. "Honey, Molly is back,"
Yeah,
he said shortly and turned his gaze back to the TV. "Just when she's finally starting to open up to us a little." Dave had always liked to drink, but since Sam's death, his drinking had noticeably increased. It might have been his way to forget the pain of losing our only son. So I tried to overlook it. After dinner, Molly quickly cleared the dishes, went to the kitchen, and helped with the washing.
Grandma, today, my drawing got awarded at school.
"Really? That's amazing." The landscape painting Molly had drawn at the end of the year was chosen as the cover for the school's 100th anniversary commemorative booklet.
Having my drawing on the cover made me so happy.
It was the first genuine smile Molly had shown since coming to live with us.
Grandpa, listen,
Molly, don't you think you should focus more on your studies than drawing?
"Honey."
It's true, isn't it?
Indeed, Molly was never really good at studying. Though she didn't fail her finals at the end of the year, her math and English scores were quite poor. Because of this, I had to help Molly with her studies late into the night every day. Starting child rearing all over again at this stage was a significant challenge. Even for biological grandparents, it wasn't easy. In fact, there were probably more conflicts than anything else. Dave's attitude towards Molly never improved. He was cold to her, almost as if he blamed her for the loss of our son. Since the accident, I was worried about Dave, who had taken to heavy drinking and had become reclusive. Late at night, after making sure Molly was asleep, I approached Dave. "Honey, what was that attitude towards Molly earlier?"
What are you talking about?
He was still in the kitchen, drinking what he called his nightcap of whiskey. That girl has finally started to brighten up a bit and is attending school properly.
So what? Attending school is the obvious thing to do, right?
Even so, telling her to study more like that. You didn't have to say it that way.
What about you? You've been spending all your time on Molly lately. She should be able to study on her own, right?
She may not be good at studying, but she's great at art and sports. Isn't that enough?
Sam was good at both studies and sports, just like me. Molly doesn't resemble her father at all.
Stop it already. No matter what we say, Sam isn't coming back. What we can do now is raise Molly properly. Please, cooperate.
Listen, Holly, I don't know about you, but I had plans for my second life. But
Dave hesitated and then stopped talking.
no, it's fine. It's all in the past now.
Molly was supposed to be a precious treasure for both Dave and me. But the death of our son's family cast a dark shadow over the relationship between grandparents and granddaughter. I quietly went to check on Molly in her room. Molly, I'm sorry. A single tear traced down her cheek as she slept soundly. I gently wiped away her tear and silently returned to my bedroom. That day, Dave came home late, completely drunk.
Hey, I'm back.
Honey, where have you been this late?
Does it matter? It's none of your business.
For the past few months, Dave had been going out drinking every night, claiming it was to relieve stress. Naturally, this led to more arguments and conflicts at home. He seems like a completely different person these days. He staggered into the living room, plopped down on the sofa, and demanded.
Bring me some water.
I reluctantly handed him a glass of water. After gulping it down without hesitation, he said something unexpected.
Today, I ran into your sister at the bar.
Really? You saw Amy? I felt a sense of unease in my chest. Amy and I were sisters, but we had different moms. There was a significant age gap between us. Amy, the daughter of my late dad's second wife, was 47 years old, 13 years younger than me. She was still single, but maintained a youthful beauty that earned her the nickname Ageless Beauty. A few years ago, she started a successful cosmetics brand called Jupiter, which had even been featured in magazines. Amy couldn't exactly be called a beauty, but she was the type of woman who climbed up by using men, the so-called bad woman. Because of this, she had constant issues with men from a young age. It would be a lie to say that I never envied Amy's flashy social life. But fortunately, our stepmother, who was my dad's second wife, raised us without any favoritism. Perhaps that's why I never felt inferior to my beautiful sister. I couldn't believe that Amy had started her cosmetics brand with only her own funds. I was sure she had charmed some man into becoming her patron and had him invest in it.
Hey, Holly, when was the last time you looked in the mirror?
Casually, I glanced at the mirror hanging on the living room wall. The face staring back at me looked much older than I had expected. What? Is this me? I reflexively looked away from the mirror. I couldn't bear to look directly at it. This was reality. In the mirror, I saw myself, worn out from childcare, housework, and mental strain. I felt like I understood what Dave was trying to say.
You and Amy are so different. Are you really sisters?
His eyes, tinged with a slight sneer, were clouded with alcohol. I trembled with anger, unable to find words to respond. Yes, we are sisters, so why?
Well, your sister stays beautiful despite her age. Unlike someone I know,
I was so furious and upset that I felt dizzy. I barely contained the urge to scream, slammed the door shut, and left the room. Bitter memories of being compared to my sister and belittled resurfaced. To think that at this age, I would be treated like this by my husband. I closed the door behind me and couldn't hold back the quiet sobs.
Grandma,
It seemed Molly had heard our loud argument. Since then, my relationship with my husband had grown cold. Instead of reflecting, he became even more arrogant towards Molly and me. His drinking habits worsened, and he often stayed out until morning. When he was younger, Dave had quite a bit of experience with women, having dated several before marrying me. I was worried but felt powerless to do anything. Despite Dave's nightly drinking, I had recently stopped trying to intervene. He doesn't listen to me anymore. Though resigned, I still held a faint hope that he might regain his old kindness. I can't afford to be daydreaming. I snapped back to reality.
Thank you, Holly, for another wonderful lesson today.
I exchanged cheerful words with my flower arrangement class's students and saw them off with a smile. After my son and his wife's death, I had closed the class for a while, but my students quickly returned when I reopened it. Now I barely spoke to my husband, who ignored the family. He also hardly spoke to Molly. Today was a flower arrangement class day. The room was filled with colorful flowers, and a sweet fragrance lingered in the classroom. The interaction with my students in the class was my only joy and a solace for my heart. After the students left, I started to put away the tools in the empty classroom. The deep indigo vase is my favorite. Dave bought it for me a long time ago. I pulled a single deep crimson rose from the flower frog and stared at it intently. The luxurious rose, illuminated by the setting sun streaming through the window. Its luxurious appearance reminded me of my sister, who Dave met recently. His words echoed in my mind again.
when was the last time you looked in the mirror?
A woman's worth isn't determined solely by her outward appearance. But do I have anything that surpasses Amy right now?
Grandma,
I was snapped back to reality by the sound of my name. Today was Dave's birthday. I remembered that I had planned to make his favorite beef stew for dinner. I turned around quickly to see who had called me. Molly told me she had drawn something for Dave. Thank you. I'm sure Grandpa will come home early tonight. Despite saying that, I called Dave, but there was no answer. Today is a special day. That night, Dave finally came home after 10 p.m. He smelled of alcohol and cigarettes as he walked past me in the hallway. It seemed he had been drinking again. Molly, Grandpa is home. Molly was holding what looked like a piece of drawing paper.
Grandpa, happy birthday. I drew this for you. Please take it.
Today was Dave's 65th birthday.
Is this supposed to be me? It doesn't look like me at all. Molly, you really waste your time on useless things.
Dave crumpled the portrait she had drawn and tossed it into the trash. Honey, how could you? Molly worked so hard on that.
Let's be clear now. Both you and Molly are a nuisance. Get out.
Even though he was drunk, those were terrible words. Molly ran away crying. Molly, we might never be able to go back to how things were before. Just as I thought that, the doorbell rang. Who could it be at this hour? No way.
Holly, it's been a while.
Amy, why are you here? I stood there, dumbfounded. Then Dave spoke up again.
I'm fed up with old people like you.
What do you mean? You two aren't. Amy looked down at me with a spiteful smile.
Holly, I'm dating Dave.
What?
That's how it is. I'm sorry. I'm marrying Amy.
I couldn't comprehend the sudden declaration, and cold sweat began to pour from my body. Before I knew it, my hands and feet were trembling.
I'm sorry. I'm taking your husband.
Amy watched with amusement as I shook with shock. Amy, do you even realize what you're saying?
What do you mean? It's the truth.
She stood up with a faint smile.
That's how it is. Well, I'll leave you for now.
That night, I was so shocked that I couldn't sleep at all. I realized for the first time that when something is too shocking, you can't even cry. It hadn't even been a year since Sam's death, and now Molly and I were plunged into the depths of despair once again. 2 months later, Dave and I divorced officially. It was an unexpectedly abrupt end to our married life. I had been married to Dave for 37 years since I was 24, and never imagined it would end in divorce. Afterward, I relied on relatives and left the house with Molly. Everything precious was slipping through my fingers. I was overwhelmed with a sense of helplessness and sought refuge with my uncle's family, praying for relief. Spring was approaching. The warm early spring breeze gently swept across the fields. My dad's older brother, Ron, lived in a rural area in New England. The water in the surrounding fields was warming up, and the gentle hills nearby were sprouting with young, yellow-green leaves. Despite the peaceful, radiant spring sunlight, my heart was dark and heavy. I had just learned that Dave and Amy had officially remarried.
Grandma, what's wrong?
Oh, nothing, I said as I continued to place the alstroemeria flowers into the basket. I was preparing flowers to ship to the local fresh market. The head of the Woodson family we were staying with was my uncle, Ron Woodson. The Woodson family owned several forests and fields in this region and cultivated flowers for shipment to the metropolitan area. I was also given the opportunity to work at their flower farm. Everyone in the Woodson family, including Uncle Ron, his wife, and my cousin Ted's family, was kind. I love flowers, so working on the farm isn't hard at all, but... Molly, I'm sorry for making you move so many times. Since her parents' accident, Molly had been forced to move twice.
I'm sad about Grandpa, but I think this is for the best.
This region was warm and comfortable. With both the sea and mountains nearby, Molly seemed to like this picturesque place unexpectedly. She was more enthusiastic about her painting and joined the art club at her new school, even attending painting classes. Someday, I hope to reopen my flower arrangement class and become independent again in this place. Since my son and his wife's death, there had been my husband's affair, conflicts with my sister, and finally, divorce. Too many things had happened too quickly, and I still couldn't make sense of it all.
Grandma, I have something to tell you.
What is it?
It's about Aunt Amy. Look at this.
Molly showed me the screen of her smartphone. Amy? I frowned. Peering at the screen, I saw several familiar names. It was about Amy Woodson and the company she headed, Jupiter Cosmetics. It was revealed that there were false claims about the ingredients in Jupiter Cosmetics' facial cleanser. The products contained an ingredient that was supposed to be strictly regulated in quantity, but it had been used far beyond the allowable limits. Many people experienced severe allergic reactions, swelling, and even anaphylactic shock. Information posted on the internet spread quickly. Molly had noticed it from information retweeted by her friend who used the cosmetics.
Aunt Amy is probably going to face a lot of trouble now. So will Grandpa.
Yes.
Knowing them, they might come to you for help, Grandma.
Don't worry, Molly. You don't need to worry about that. They're living their own lives, separate from us now.
Okay, I understand.
I made up my mind firmly. A few days later, Amy's company's scandal was already being reported on TV. According to the news, there were about 300 victims, and the legal team was demanding compensation in the millions of dollars.
Holly, I know it must be hard seeing your sister in the news for something like this.
I'm sorry for all the trouble Amy and Dave have caused Uncle Ron.
Don't get involved with them anymore. They're a disgrace to the Woodson family.
Yes.
Who knows what kind of bad luck they might bring next?
Ron warned his relatives to keep Amy and Dave away from their house. He couldn't possibly think well of Amy, who had not only taken her sister's husband, but also caused a nationwide scandal. My feelings were complicated. My heart was unsettled and restless. But my fears came true. A few days later, I received a call from an unregistered number.
Hello, is this Holly?
Surprisingly, it was not Amy but my ex-husband. What do you want now?
Don't be so cold. I need a favor.
No.
At least hear me out. I officially married Amy the other day, and I took a position on the board of Jupiter. But now, with all this chaos,
So what?
I need you to lend me some money. Your dad was quite wealthy, wasn't he? Didn't you get a substantial inheritance when he passed away?
What? You want to take my dad's inheritance too? You've got to be kidding. Don't ever contact me again. Cheating with my sister, abandoning our family, and now trying to get his hands on my dad's estate. I was boiling with anger. I tried my hardest to keep my emotions in check so Molly wouldn't notice.
Grandma, I'm home.
Molly had come back. Perhaps she had track practice today. Her face was slightly sunburned from the early summer sun.
What's wrong?
What do you mean?
Grandma, you're crying.
I was startled and touched my face, feeling several tears running down my cheeks. I'm sorry for dragging you into this, Molly. Unable to wipe away the tears, I covered my face with both hands and broke down crying. Then, I felt a soft hand on my head. It was Molly's hand.
Grandma, don't cry.
I could tell Molly was looking at me with concern. All the dark emotions I had been holding back burst forth and wouldn't stop. Molly continued to gently pat my head. There, now.
Grandma, it's not your fault.
I couldn't respond. Is that really true? What if I had paid more attention to Dave after Sam died? What if I had been more supportive of his feelings? What if Sam and his family hadn't had that accident? Would our fate have been different? But now, everything we lost couldn't be recovered.
Grandma, let's be happy.
Happy? Can we be?
If you wish for it, we can be.
You're right.
As long as I'm here, we'll be okay.
That's right. I couldn't help but laugh through my tears. For the first time, I felt deeply grateful that Molly had survived. That night, I made a firm decision. I finally decided to claim alimony from my ex-husband and Amy, my sister. Molly, I need to talk to you about something.
What is it?
I'm thinking of opening a flower arrangement class again. What do you think? Molly's face lit up.
It's great. I'm all for it.
I knew we needed a substantial amount of money to raise Molly properly. Molly accepted my proposal with a smile. The Woodson family is very kind. I've never felt uncomfortable here, but I started to think about starting a new life with Molly. Taking care of the beautiful flowers on this farm deepened my love for them even more. And in this temporary home, I still have my instructor's license safely stored away. Flower arrangement was one of the arts our mom made my sister and me learn. Amy gave it up halfway, but I loved it and continued. A few weeks later, I received a call at the Woodson main house from Amy.
Holly, what's this about you claiming alimony? I just got a call from the lawyer.
It's exactly what it sounds like. It's my rightful claim for what you did to me.
You're the one who let Dave be taken. It's not my fault.
You're still saying nonsensical things.
That's why I hate you. Pretending to be so smart and good, always getting everyone's approval. I hate that about you.
You've always felt that way? I was surprised.
You've always had people around you, always cherished by mom and dad. You could never understand how I felt.
Amy.
You know my company is finished, right? We're being sued by victims collectively, and the damages are in the millions. And now you're claiming alimony? Don't be ridiculous.
Amy, I've always felt inferior to you. We were the same. I just realized it now, but I won't back down this time. This is for Sam too. Sam, watch over us from heaven. I'll raise your daughter well. It might be difficult to reconcile with my sister and ex-husband while we're alive, but that's okay. I'll live my life with conviction. I've decided to be happy with Molly. The following week, we received 2 pieces of good news from school. One was that Molly had performed well in track and field and was selected to compete in the national hurdle event. The other was, really? Molly's painting?
Yes, Grandma, I get to go to the Netherlands.
I could hardly believe my ears. Molly's painting had won first place in a competition. Molly had entered a summer painting contest hosted by one of the top art supplies companies in the country. The painting won first prize and was to be displayed at a renowned museum in the Netherlands for a limited time. In addition to the prize money, the winners were provided with travel and accommodation expenses. This news was published in the cultural section of the newspaper, which Dave saw. He called the Woodson household again.
Hello, Molly. Long time no see. How have you been?
I'm good.
I saw the newspaper. It's amazing that you won a prize. Show it to your grandpa? Will you?
I can't show it to you. It's being displayed overseas.
I heard you got prize money too. Can you call your grandma? I need to talk to her.
No, Grandma said she would never give the prize money to you. And besides,
I'm not interested in the money.
A few days earlier, Dave had suddenly visited the Woodson house, pleading with me to reconcile. Given the timing, it seemed obvious he was after the prize money. I had no intention of getting back together with my ex-husband. At this time, he was completely worn out and exhausted. The financial losses from Amy's cosmetics business, the collective lawsuit damages, and the infidelity alimony had taken their toll, pushing the couple to the brink of insanity. In fact, their minds might have already been broken. Amy's beauty had faded, making her look older than her years. She no longer cared about her appearance or makeup and seemed on the verge of losing her sanity. The cost of the affair with her sister's husband was far greater than she had imagined. After struggling to secure funds, they ended up with hundreds of thousands of dollars in debt. Dave and Amy were mentally and physically drained. From the very start of their marriage, they had been plagued by trouble, and their relationship was on the verge of collapse.
I should never have married you. You're useless.
What? You're the one who seduced me first. I was the one tricked. Give me back my life.
Dave finally realized that Amy had never loved him. Sensing her cosmetics business was faltering, Amy had quickly sought a partner to parasite off. He finally realized that she had manipulated and completely exploited him. And he realized that this affair was also a form of revenge against her sister, whom she had always envied and resented. But it was all too late. They had lost their money, their home, their family, and their love, and even their memories. All they had left was a new wife on the brink of madness. Later, I heard through the grapevine that Dave and Amy had started working at a hotel far away in the north. Dave had held a respectable position during his career, and Amy, who had been the president of a cosmetics company, must have faced considerable hardship in her new life. But my life was now free from them. I had no intention of interfering or being interfered with. There was only one thing that concerned me. That hotel was very close to the place where Sam and his family had visited just before their accident. The autumn leaves must be beautiful around this time. Maybe he's there to pay respects to Sam? It was just a guess, but Sam was our irreplaceable son. That much was a fact. Looking back, everything started with that accident. No one was to blame, and no one could be blamed. It was just a sad, bitter memory. And so, in my heart, I silently said goodbye to Dave and Amy, who had betrayed me. Then the seasons passed, and it was the second spring since the accident. With the funds we had saved, Molly and I bought a house not far from the Woodson family home and started our new life. We moved to a place close enough so Molly wouldn't have to change her school. There, I finally reopened my flower arrangement class. It was conveniently located near the station. The student recruitment flyer that Molly made was well received, and a lot of students gathered right away.
Grandma, the painting they displayed at the museum has been returned.
In Molly's hands was a painting of a flower field bathed in the setting sun, with Sam, his wife Emily, and Molly herself. No matter how many times I see it, it's a wonderful painting. I'm sure Sam and Emily are happy too.
Yes, I think so too.
We both laughed, looking at each other. How about we hang this painting in flower arrangement classroom for a while?
Of course.
Actually, Molly's painting was set to be donated to the City Art Museum later. But Molly, wanting to make her grandmother happy, readily agreed to my request.
Grandma, you know,
What's up?
I'm not angry at Grandpa and Aunt anymore. Is that okay?
At first, I was surprised by this sudden declaration. But at the same time, I found myself resonating with Molly's thoughts. It's okay, Molly. You can feel however you want.
Yes.
Whatever your feelings are, they belong to you. It's your choice to forgive or not to forgive anyone.
Thank you.
Yes, those two have already received the punishment they deserved. I will be free too. I'm only 62. Life is just beginning. Above Molly and me, our future shone brightly.